Africa approaches everything differently. And by differently, I mean not differently in the positive, from the positive angle. One simple thing, we don't plan, we don't look forward. We don't. I think we can keep things simple. Use our brains and start from A and go to B and go to C. And we can do it. Even if we make mistakes, we'll correct them. But let's make a start.
Joe Winfull, senior partner at KPMG, expresses the frustration of thousands. Ghana has a massive housing shortage, 1.6 million units, and with every year that passes, the number grows. The challenge is huge, and time is running out.
It's not rocket science. I mean, we are behaving as if we don't have, the requisite expertise, knowledge. I hate to use the word common sense, even sometimes. So we end up with, problems and challenges which are unnecessary.
Dr. Damilabi, Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission.
The problem is huge, but we have to start from somewhere. Every human activity finds expression in space. And so you need land for every human activity. So if our land ownership system and the land administration infrastructure is not sorted out, what you do is you have organized chaos for service delivery and for human activity. And that's exactly what we see around us.
Land, it seems, is at the heart of the problem.
It's gotten to a point that, it's the highest risk you ever take when you think about going to buy land, because you don't know whether somebody else owns it, whether it's the right chief, the right family, what have you. There are no, safeguards. So we take the risk. It's a casino.
Odamilabi has a solution.
The first thing is to request all landowners or to direct all landowners to register their lands. Not only register, but support it with plans so that we know the limits of whoever is owning land, the limits and extent of the land they own.
Unless land is registered, Lands Commission has no record or information on it. Problem is, outside of Accra and Kumasi, there's no law that compels people to do it. Odamilabi says that needs to change.
If you don't, then I'm sorry, if you grant any land, it will not be recognized. You cannot register it. The person who has bought it from you cannot register it.
Before you can register your land, it has to be professionally surveyed. But because this is an expensive procedure, most people are reluctant to do it.
I think that government should absorb the cost of surveying because it is part of building our national infrastructure. If we had done this over the years, by now, we would have had a very credible database of landowners. If government is going to do it, and it has the money, and it is putting the resources and the surveyors, and it's absorbing the cost, then it is as of necessity for the government to be able to also say that if you people are refusing to agree on the boundary, this is where I, as government, am putting the boundary, and then we move forward. If we don't take some of these bold decisions and we say that it's their land and they must go to court and all those things, then we will never make progress.
Joe Winfull has a more straightforward solution.
I believe strongly that the government or a government agency go and buy the land from the chiefs or the families. I can assure you no chief is going to sell land to the government and go back and sell it elsewhere. Because, let's face it, it's not easy fighting a government. And they wouldn't even dare because everything will be, well documented. But the chiefs will have to be compensated. The lands are valued, they agree, they sign on the dotted line, and the transfer is made to the government or the government agency.
It's too late now to say that government must go back to take over all lands. Because the reality is that even the little that the government has taken control over, it's not been able to manage it very effectively. And so I wouldn't push that government should take over all lands. But I will push that government should rather create a framework that makes sure that people who have land put the lands to users determined by the state.
What the country needs, he says, is a comprehensive national land use plan.
A land use plan that tells where we have our farming areas, where we have our buildable areas, where we are reserving for forestry, where we are reserving to protect river courses. You have this. And then, we know the bane in this country, enforcement. Once we do this, we enforce it. So if you grant any piece of land and you come and we say, sorry, it falls in a forest reserve, it falls in an area reserved for agriculture, because the cities must also be fed. And therefore, it is not possible at this point in time to allow you to, say, build an estate in that area. So be it. We must begin to define how we live in our community. Otherwise, it will be a problem.
A national land use plan is an important first step. The next is to look at the state of our cities.
Our cities are not planned. Our developments are springing up here and there because there's no coordinated order in which they are developed.
These people have gone as far as to put up a building and staff it and call it planning department, city planning. Planning what?
City expansion is out of control. Without regulation, development is totally haphazard, with houses, offices and factories being built wherever people choose, making the delivery of infrastructure, roads, lights, water and sanitation extremely difficult. It's a chaotic state of affairs and it needs to change. Plans and regulations need to be clearly laid down and enforced.
We can no longer allow people to choose what they want to do and what they don't want to do. We must have a focus, and everybody must be driven to focus on exactly the target and where we want to go.
We've got to have the land available, and the land has got to be appropriate. The land has got to be prepared before you start building. If an estate developer comes in, or grader comes in, and says, I want to buy so many plots because I'm building a township, they know from the plan that yes, it includes a school, it includes a hospital, it includes a clinic, it includes a shopping mall, and so on and so forth.
Get the plans in place and the houses will follow. Without orderly development, Ghana's newfound middle income status is meaningless.
In the Western world, when they say that the economy is booming, one of the significant indices is house prices and it's house sales. So they use even housing as an indicator for economic growth. And so we should be able to do the same thing here. And so when we say that our economy is booming, it means people are buying houses. It means there is a good mortgage system that allows people to access mortgages to buy property.
But first things first. After land, the single biggest factor hampering the delivery of housing is cost of construction. South Africa is able to build a starter house for $20,000. The same house in Ghana will cost $50,000. Why? Let's look at the fundamentals. Despite its widespread use, cement in Ghana is outrageously expensive, due no doubt to the fact that GASEM has a virtual monopoly on the market. Architect Ellen Insia.
So I think there has to be some kind of regulations and there has to be some kind of competition on the market where we can have some more cement making factories in the country. I think we'll need to find alternative building materials, especially those that are produced locally.
Here's one possibility: cement additive pozzolana. Made from simple clay and palm oil husks, both found locally in abundance. Pozzolana, when added to the mortar mix, cuts the use of conventional cement by 1/3.
We should be proud of it because this is purely Ghanaian research finding that came out. So we should be proud of this and we should take it up.
But despite the fact that it reduces costs and also strengthens your mortar mix, this pioneering enterprise has virtually ground to a halt because no one is buying the product.
It's just like having perfumed rice. I mean, many Ghanaians love eating rice, but hey, everybody wants to eat perfumed rice, doesn't want to use the local rice. So it's the same scenario we're having. People are used to the Portland cement and they don't really understand why they should use pozzolana. So that is actually resulting in lack of patronage. But that should not be the attitude. In every economy, the economy actually grows from the local indigenous people who actually buy the local material and use it. That's the only way the economy grows. But if we Ghanaians are not ready to use it, then we say we don't want any industry. All we want is to import, import, import. And we are crying for jobs. We are crying that our industries are collapsing. It's because we are not buying. Anytime we buy imported material, all we are telling our industries that close down. That's what we are doing.
A clear 80% of every house built in Ghana today, doors, windows, taps, tiles, sinks, baths, and even nails are imported.
Abosu used to produce glass. So why did we stop? Because it's cheaper to have the Chinese one. Maybe we're producing it better quality than the Chinese one. Maybe we are not managing it well. These are things we can look at. And even where we believe that it's cheaper being produced there because we don't have the expertise, why can't we attract investors and have joint ventures so that we produce them? Instead of, wanting to bring in or create jobs outside because our people are not good enough to work in factories that produces. We have a housing deficit. Part of the material is this. So what are we talking about?
I think it's a cultural issue which is preventing us from using these materials. You look at the compressed stabilized earth bricks and it's made of mud. And in Ghana, if you build of mud, it's like you don't have the money and you're trying to put up something. But then if we as architects, if architects are able to design using mud and making them aesthetically pleasing, I think that mentality is going to go away.
Take Hydroform for example. This is the new generation compressed earth brick and a product that has the possibility to revolutionize housing delivery. While conventional sandcrete blocks comprise 30% cement, Hydroform requires just 5%, a substantial reduction. Mixed with ordinary laterite and hydraulically compressed on site, they are strong as any concrete block and easier to use.
With the Hydroform construction, you only plaster the inside, and you are not also using mortar to join the bricks. They are interlocking.
It's an ingenious design. The bricks fit together like a jigsaw puzzle and don't need any mortar to secure them. Another saving.
It's very fast to use the Hydroform bricks because you are arranging it. You don't need skilled labor to do that. You can train anybody to do that.
And it's fast.
3 people, and they can finish one house within a week. It's that fast. It's very fast.
If we are not doing plastering externally, if we are not using mortar and to join the blocks, then we are making savings. And if you are cutting on labor, the savings. And now this savings will eventually amount to a lower cost of construction. And therefore we can also come up with an affordable housing.
Using alternative materials and technologies can go a long way towards bringing costs down. But there's another huge issue to tackle: loans. Financing for housing, whether to build it or buy it, is difficult to come by. Banks see property as a high-risk area and they are interested only in short-term loans. Add to this the high cost of money and we have a serious problem. Look at it first from the developer's point of view. The buyer puts down a 20% deposit and the bank pays the balance only on completion of the house. In order to build the house, the developer must find bridging finance at a whopping 30%, and it's no easier for the buyer. Your average mortgage is no longer than 10 or 15 years, and the resulting monthly repayments put mortgaging out of the reach of the vast majority. HFC's Asari Kufo.
The solution is a partnership, and the partnership is between the government, financial institutions, and then the real estate developers.
He cites government's public sector housing scheme as an example.
What has happened here is that the government has provided special funding of about 8 million Ghana cedis that enables HFs to lend to public service employees at rates of between 10 to 15%. And they've been given 20-year mortgages. Their repayment is by payroll deduction. And we put in that house prices should not be more than initially 25,000 Ghana cedis, currently 30,000 Ghana cedis. But because of that effective demand that we've created, we have developers who are delivering houses within that price range.
Blue Rose is one of them.
2008, the government through HFC, they came to us. We agreed, they decided that they want 100 houses. Then we agreed that we'll deliver at a span, like within a year.
An important part of the deal was an upfront deposit to developers from HFC and phased payment throughout the life of the project, taking the burden of high interest loans off the shoulders of the developers and subsequently off the price of the houses.
The first offer we did, we gave it to them at 25,000 and 32 people picked it up. So now the price is 32,000 Ghana cedi. But still, it's the most affordable houses in town.
So it's a typical example of how a government, despite the challenges, can still create, room for houses to be delivered to people who are qualified to buy houses.
The scheme is clearly a step in the right direction and could and should be replicated. But the reality is that, even at this level, mortgages are still out of the reach of the majority. And there are those that feel not just government, but banks themselves could be more proactive in their approach.
The banks can get down there if they had the desire to do so. But right now, they don't need to. They're making enough revenue from high-end corporate clients, from reinvestment of deposits into treasury bills. The revenue that they earn out of that is enough to keep them sustainable. They don't need to extend their risk profile. They have no desire to do it.
Ken Kosa of Adesheman Loans.
Government also needs to actually turn around and say, how do we do this differently? How do we actually address the constitutional rights of our citizens and give them access to a place to call their own?
As a microfinancing company, Adesheman is involved with the informal sector, the area of society where the housing shortage is most acute.
It's not possible for government to deliver housing on their own. It's not going to happen. It's failed. It's not just failed in Ghana, it's failed in numerous other countries. So this is not purely a Ghanaian problem.
And contrary to conventional wisdom, the solution, he says, doesn't lie in government-subsidized social housing, but in home ownership.
If you own that, you can leverage it, you can build on it, it is yours, you can then sell it as you wish. Land ownership is the first sign of creating wealth.
This seems like a pipe dream, given the fact that banks see the informal sector as the ultimate risk. But they've got it all wrong, says Ken Kosa.
The finance houses need to start thinking outside of the box, using people's ability and the will to pay. What has been proven across a number of different areas in the world is where land ownership or house ownership is involved, the rate of default is cut in half. So you're faced with a situation that you are not creating risk, you're actually removing risk.
Home ownership in the informal sector is eminently possible, he says, through phased short-term loans and the building of individual houses over time.
This is happening already. It is happening across Ghana. People are building houses incrementally. As money becomes available, so they access it and they use it. And they will build their home over a 10-year period before they're ready to move in. So we want to try and formalize that into loans that are structured over a period of time. So land, phase 1, small home, phase 2, enlarge that home, phase 3, enlarge it some more, phase 4, 5, 6, until such time as the individual who owns that piece of ground has developed it to what they would like. That could take 20 years. So what Adesheman is looking to try and work on is how do we deliver a housing product that will fit with the market in its level of affordability and a level of scale that is sustainable.
We have to all come together. When we come together, we can do anything that we want to do. So everybody has to get up.
A wake-up call from a community determined to solve its own problems. Welcome to Ashaiman.
We are congested. The rooms are congested. About 10 or 15 people are living in one room. It's not fair for us. You and your husband on your bed, the children are on the floor. So if you want to get up and go and urinate, you step on your child or your daughter.
Ghana is short of 1.6 million houses, and nowhere is the problem more evident than here.
If we don't have the provisions or the policies and programs that will help the people find the housing that they need, they will try to find the housing themselves in the best way they know how.
In order to overcome the deficit, 160,000 houses have to be built every year for the next 10 years. The question is how? Architect Ellen Insia has some ideas.
There has to be a way of getting the formal sector to work with the informal sector, especially when we're talking about housing for the low-income earner. Now we need to get a system whereby we can get the low-income earner kind of formalized. If we can get them to form cooperatives, they become more attractive to the formal sector. They have a registered name, you know where to find them, you know where to find one when you're looking for the others. And they become more credible than if they go individually. I can state the Amuijo project as an example.
It took 5 years for each member of the cooperative to save the 1,000 Ghana cedis needed as a deposit. They then approached the local chief, who accepted equity in the building, 5 units, in exchange for the land. The Tema Local Assembly and Ministry of Water and Housing contributed to the purse, and UN Habitat provided funding for guarantees. With everything in place, HFC then granted them a loan for construction. The building you see today tells its own story. Kojo Anani of PDHS, facilitators of the project.
How affordable is housing when the poor cannot afford it? But when you plan with them, there are little coins, like one of our affiliates say, shiringi shiringi, which means the coins, the little coins will make. So little drops of water will make a mighty ocean. When the poor is given the chance, will be able to change their own destiny.
It's a highly workable model. 5 years ago, this site hosted 10 families. Today, it houses 32. Shops at the base of the building pay rent, income that helps maintain the building, as does the public toilet and bath facility. Residents each pay 75 cedis a month, collected weekly, and at the end of 10 years will own their homes, at a cost of just 13,000 cedis per unit. There is dignity here and hope.
What I want government to do is that they should plan with the poor and know that the poor are partners in development agenda. So definitely, what city are we looking at? Are we looking at a city of the rich and another city of the poor? Everybody needs somebody. So the government should see the poor as partners in development. Who created the slum? So if you plan with them, will there be slum? So I'll go back again, that we are the problem and we are the solution. Come, let's talk. Let's dialogue. Let's move the development agenda forward.